Welcome to the Insurance Producers Podcast, where we bring you the top personalized producers, insurance agents, and industry partners, giving you at least 3 takeaways to 10x your production and build your multi-million-dollar revenue books. So sit back, relax, and become inspired by the success stories and strategies of the world's top insurance minds. Let's roll. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Insurance Producers Podcast. I am your host, Cyrus Jaffery, and today, man, I've got a friend of mine here, Brett Young from Orlando, Florida. What's happening, bud?
What is up, man? I'm super pumped to be with you today.
I appreciate you being on, man. So Brett has been in the industry for 13 years, and I'm going to have him share just really quick a little bit of his background, how he got into the insurance industry, 30-second if we can, and then we're going to get rock and rolling. As you guys know, man, this show is all about giving you guys 2 or 3 different nuggets to take back to your agencies, man. And as Brett says, man, try to be exceptional, right? So
That's right, man. Very, very cool. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you want to just go back, man, how you got into the industry and how the team is set up now and how the agency is set up, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah. I've been in the insurance space for about 18 years. I've been in the property and casualty side of the business for about 13 years, about 14 years now. I've had this agency for 13 years now. So, man, we have 55 team members, and stateside, and then we'll do 14 million this year in new business, predominantly personal lines, 80% personal lines, 20% commercial lines. We're super big in from a real estate perspective on referral partner marketing and referral source marketing and taking care of closings and transactions. So for anybody that is in that space or wants to get better in that space, I feel like we do it at a decently high level, and we've learned some things. So we've learned a lot along the way. I've learned what doesn't work. Almost everything that probably is working well is probably the result of doing it the wrong way 4 or 5 times. So, but that's how you learn. So it's how it goes.
That's right, man. I tell young agents and producers all the time, I'm like, dude, why reinvent the wheel, man? A lot of us have already made these mistakes, that are maybe 4 or 5 years into the industry. I'm like, you just got to call and ask, man, because by no means they're trying to hide something. There's one thing about telling you what to do, but there's another thing when it comes to execution, man. And I feel like you and your team, man, does an excellent job of that. So kudos to you guys, man. So you're in Florida, 14 years in the business, man, 55 team members. You want to share just a little bit about how the dynamics of the team members is, honey, on the sales side, account manager, things like that, if you could?
Yeah, it's probably about half and half. I take that back. There's probably about 6 or 7 of us that sit on what we call the executive team. There's maybe 2 or 3 that are home office that are support. We have 2 or 3 that are processing related support for the sales agents. And then the rest is primarily split, with what we call relationship management and then sales. We're very heavily on growth focused. So a lot of new team members are being added or are being moved to the sales side for an emphasis on making sure we still move top line. But producers, they source their own business. We teach them how to fish. Early in the game, we sourced everything, and we just had team members that were writing the business. And what ended up happening is we were running into a point where we had 3 or 4 or 5 people, and we had an unscalable model. You run into this barrier, this plateau where, at the end of the day, it's your ability to grow is equal or only equal to how many leads you can personally bring in. And so we hit this block, and it was at the point where we figured out that, like, okay, we've got to teach other people how to do the things that we're doing, and if we can inherently accomplish that, then there's no limitation on growth. There's just a limitation on how much, what type of talent that we have and how much talent we could find. That's been a really cool shift that's probably happened in the last 2 or 3 years.
That's beautiful. I was literally with somebody this morning at coffee after a workout, and he asked me, he was a roofer, new into it. He goes, man, how'd you build your business? I said, well, I had 7 to 10 realtors and mortgage officers. That was my kind of like what I wanted to focus on because that fed me.
Hmm.
And then as I brought on team members, I said, hey, 7 to 10, that's your referral source. I go find 7 to 10 really good ones. You don't need 100. Go take care of them really well, and they're going to keep feeding you. And then as I added on team members, 7 to 10, 7 to 10. So I've got 13 salespeople, each of them doing 7 to 10 referral partners. We got 130 referral partners that are sending us business on a monthly basis, because that's what he was trying to figure out how to scale, because he was by himself. I was like, you can't do it all yourself, man. So same model, exactly kind of what you said. So why then, for people that are wondering why real estate and mortgage? Because I feel like in 2013 I became a State Farm agent, and everybody was going auto, like auto, you buy quote wizard leads and all these things. And then I was like, man, like, I don't want to call it. 6 other agents have called the same freaking lead. So I'm going to go find a different lead source. So I got into the mortgage and real estate side. And then I feel like everybody started doing it. Or maybe I don't know, maybe more people talked about it, but I came from like 15 to like 20. Everybody was all about mortgage and real estate. And now they're not, is what I'm hearing, because of
Well, I think
what's happening.
yeah, the market's changed. I mean, the market's tough. I mean, it's tough to be a loan officer right now. It's challenging, right? So that's thinned the herd. And I think, maybe a couple of years ago there's a loan officer on every corner, and they're
Mm-hmm.
printing money, and now it's gotten really difficult, and it's very challenging in that market. But what goes up, will come down, and those that are left will become the titans of the future. And that's just like how every industry gets squeezed. But for us, my partner was in the referral based selling space in the medical space. So he did it with home health care. He did it with clinical uh, services for behavioral health hospitals. He did it with oxygen sales for primary doctors, and so it's a simple concept. If you create a partnership and an idea where you have a referral partner or referral source that sends you a piece of business in order to take care of their client, and you do a good job, and that helps them make more money, then inevitably they're going to continue to send that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's the golden goose idea, where you're not after the egg, you're after the goose. And so the referral partner model is just one of those ones that's just been great for us, just because it was his skill set. And he took a company from 2 million to 9 million as a vice president of marketing for them, and then he did the same thing with 2 other companies preceding that. So for us, it was just a great uh, fit with our skill sets, and it's just been one of those things where that home becomes that anchor, especially here in Florida. Auto insurance can be challenging because you're not packaging that stuff. It's not, a lot of the packages, they don't necessarily exist here in Florida for us,
Yeah.
so it's challenging. So we lead with the home, we lead with value. We're able to help them close more deals quicker, faster, more efficiently, better for their clients. And then inevitably, we're able to cross sell and round out the account with all the other lines of business.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So I guess if you want to tell us just a little bit about, obviously the industry is at a completely different place at this point when it comes to personal lines, and you and I both, man, are screaming, man. Personal lines is all we do, and it's kind of what we always will do, right? And a lot of people are moving over to commercial side, like, oh, personal lines sucks. I don't know if personal lines will be around for a long time. I'm curious on your thoughts, man. I can see the smirk, so
I love personal lines. I
yeah.
love personal lines because I mean I consider myself a business builder, and from an entrepreneurial perspective, you can have predictable results with personal lines. Commercial, I did commercial, did it at a high level. I loved it from a sales perspective. It was much more fun for me.
Yeah.
It was more hands-on, bigger sales, bigger rush, bigger rejection, all the reasons that a salesperson would love the thrill of the game.
Mhm.
But from a repeatable, predictable perspective on how to scale a book of business, I just love personal lines so much because it's so much more systematic than commercial lines, in my opinion. And
Mhm.
so, you can get really good at the things that drive significant
Mhm.
volume. One of the things that we teach with all of our team that I think is something that isn't necessarily intuitive for people is, we go really wide in the beginning. I think
Mhm.
a lot of times we're looking for the referral partner is going to send us 20. And instead of thinking about the referral partner is going to send you 20, try to get one referral partner to get 20 referral partners to send you one.
Mhm.
And so if you go really wide at first, and then you start to sort down, right? So
Mhm.
it's quantity over quality in the beginning of the game. And then as you get a lot of quantity and you reach capacity, then you start to filter down and sort
Mhm.
down on who is the A source, B source, and the C source. And you're
Mhm.
going to work with those A sources and to deliver tremendous amount of value, see them more frequently. The
Mhm.
B's, you're trying to get into A's, And the C's, maybe you're putting them on a drip list and you see them every once in a while, or you call them every once in a while, but you're not going to go to their office. So you're not going to spend a lot of time there. So, and you're rinsing and repeating this sorting process. But so many times early in this business, producers, they don't go wide enough. They drastically underestimate the amount of volume that is required in order to find referral partners they're going to vibe with. And so the biggest advice, I mean, I could give you for what we see is that the producers that go really wide in the beginning and they have just high levels of activity where they say less to more people have a lot of success. The people that spend, an hour on an appointment with somebody because they think they just really had a good connection, that might seem like it's the right thing to do. But in the beginning, that is not, we have not seen that as a clue for success. You end up spending way too much time with not enough people, and inevitably you don't know who's going to be your A sources. You might think someone's going to be an A source, but you don't know. You might think someone's going to be great, and it may take 6 months until you find out that they're a C source, but you just beat on the door, beat on the door, beat on the door. So one of the biggest things in here is just making sure that we're practicing and we're preaching volume. And until somebody has a certain amount of referrals that are coming in, there's just certain benchmarks that we're looking at in regards to calls and marketing meetings and such, just to make sure that they're in the work of talking to as many new people as possible.
Yeah, dude, that's beautiful. So for a producer right now that's just kind of getting into the industry and is like, man, mortgage and real estate referrals is where I really want to spend some time, you would recommend for them to just basically go call 100 of them?
Yeah, I
Why
mean,
not?
back in the day, I mean, what happened is we got fat and we got happy, right? So we had LOs that were sending 10, 12, 15. And so let's just call it what it is. Like we want 100 referrals per producer. That's what we want. 100 transactions, 100 closings that are coming directly from a loan officer, a mortgage professional, a processor, a real estate agent, right? You need 100. We call them true referrals. And so if you don't have 100 true, it used to be you could have 3,
That's
4,
a
5.
year. I just want to make sure that's a year.
That's a month.
A
That's a
month.
month. We
Keep
want
going.
100 a month. So, and if it used to be, you could have 6 sources, 7 sources. Like they were doing refis, they were pumping it out, new business, and so people stopped marketing. Like us as agents, we stopped marketing, and we don't have enough sources. And then the market contracts. That LO that was doing 10, all of a sudden is doing 2, and your business drops drastically, right? And it's just this idea that you should have this wide net spread to where at this stage in the game, what's different is that you just need probably 3 times as many partners as you did when the market was hot. And so, but it's the same function. It's the same function, same thing. It's just you got to say less to more people. And, instead of trying to get somebody that's sending you 2 to 4, like just go get more sources, just go get more partners. And, I think we get caught up in the relationship game, which is important. It's the baseline of what builds trust. But in the beginning of the prospecting phase, you just can't talk to enough people. You just drastically, and then you get to 50 referrals, 60 referrals, and you stop doing what got you there in the first place. And so it's just the elite producers in our office that are absolutely punishing it, that are writing $1 million or more a year. They're just relentless on making sure that they have enough sources, enough referral partners in play to make sure that they're just never missing that 100 a month.
Yeah. And just to confirm, the 100 a month, just so I can dig a little bit deeper there, 100 a month are people that they are real estate agents, mortgage, that they're talking to or got a referral from them.
Got a referral from them. It's the
Got a
buyer.
referral from them.
So if I get 100 referrals, 100 true referrals, that means that Sammy is the real estate agent and Sammy sent me Joe. Joe is a true referral. So I'm talking about an actual closing that you're working on. Call it a closing if you want, but 100 true closings that was referred from a realtor partner. I'm not talking about a call in. I'm not talking about an online lead that came in. I'm talking about from a partner who is in the real estate space who says, Brett is my guy. He helps me with all my transactions. I'm going to go ahead and send my client over him to take a look at the market, see what they can do for my buyer.
Absolutely. And they obviously know that, Florida market is tough, man. You're not going to just send it to any insurance agent and they're going to help you, right? So you're going to want to be with the best.
Sure. I mean, that's where selling value comes from. It's like it's a lot of producers ask, like, what's that marketing conversation look like, that initial call? And so, you're not going to go from cold call to send me a referral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't happen like that. And maybe every once in a while it does, but I would be very careful of that easy come, easy go. Like there are steps to this game. And I'm making those initial calls just so I can make a friend, just so I can introduce themselves. I'm going to be letting them know that I'm going to be stopping by later in their area. I'm going to be setting breadcrumbs for them so the next time I call, it's a warm pickup. The whole intention for me to call somebody or drop in and see somebody is to set the expectation or to set the stage that the next call that I make to them, I'm no longer cold. Because if I can move from cold all the way to like hot is they're going to send me leads all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Cold is they have no idea who I am. There is a continuum and a relationship building process to get to hot, and usually that happens over time through multiple touches. So when you're making these calls, it's very important to understand that your intention is not to get off your dials for the day and have a bunch of referrals.
Mm-hmm.
You may get those, but that's not the intention. The intention is to say, am I one step closer to being able to walk in the office and them actually want to talk to me?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have the ability to walk in and I stopped in? I've talked to them twice before. I've sent them a thank you note. Maybe I sent them a book. I shared with them that I wanted to work with them. I did something nice to build rapport to where when I come by and I say, hey, I'm stopped by. Is Justin here? And Justin finds out that Brett's at the front door. He goes, oh, I know Brett. Yeah, I'll talk to him right now.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that if it was cold. I didn't earn the right to do
Mm-hmm.
that. But if I can get to that point where I'm able to see people, you win, because the hardest part in this game is getting somebody to take your call, right? Getting somebody to put FaceTime with you. So, that's another hack I think is important, is like it takes patience, but if you go really wide, your posture changes, right?
100%.
If you talk to a lot of people, you're not desperate looking for the referral. You're simply just looking for an opportunity to make another friend. And if you make enough friends, then I know that I'm going to set up enough appointments. And when I get an appointment with somebody and I sit down for 15 minutes to actually talk to them, then
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'm going to talk to them about my value. That's when I'm going to have a conversation about what I can do for them. But I'm not doing that on the initial phone call. I haven't earned the right to do that. It comes off as odd. It's a sales call, right? Like that's not what you want to do. You want to ease your way into the fact that you've earned the right to be able to ask for that business and for them to use you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we always tell all of our real estate partners, man, that like they're our client. Like our client is them. That's who our client is. And then obviously, because we do understand, man, one of your clients in your agency can send you maybe their friend, mom, brother, sister. But one real estate agent, mortgage officer can send you pretty much 15 to 20 a month if they wanted to. Like
Yep.
they can drive a lot of traffic. So my question to you is, man, okay, so a new producer comes in or a producer that wants to get into it.
Yep.
You're telling them, hey, man, go talk to a bunch of these people, right? Get a lot of at bats, right? Like the more at bats you get, the more home runs you're going to hit. That's just, kind of like whatever.
Sure.
So what is once they got the however many that your goal is for your office that's consistently sending this insurance agent leads, what's your process to keep in touch with them, right? Because now they're hot. So how do you keep it hot on a monthly basis so they are whatever the process looks like on your end?
Yeah, it's a good thought. So that comes back to sorting, right? Like my frequency is going to be dictated by whether they're an A source, a B source, and a C
Mm-hmm.
source. A being the best, meaning they send it more frequently and they send me contact information. They edify me. There are certain things that we need to be referred. Just a normal. If somebody sends me an address, that is not as good of a referral as if somebody talked to them, edified me as their partner, sent me
Mm-hmm.
the contact information and email, and then copied the client on the email. Right? There's a very drastic difference between the quality of that lead. A sources, that's what you're trying to. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for frequency. You're looking for volume, and you're looking for quality. Those A sources are going to get certain amount of touches, and I think you need to see those people every week. And my business partner's fanatical about that. But these are your top tops. These are the people that they're getting calls from other real estate. They're getting calls from other agents who want to use them. They're probably a lead at their role, and they need to see you every single week. They look. These people are a lot of times they're prima donnas, and they need attention. They need to know that they are an important thing within your business, and it is your obligation to let them know of how important they are to you. That is very, very important. A lot of people don't want to say to somebody how important their business is because it's an ego thing. Look, everybody wants to be chased. Everybody wants to feel that attention. Real estate and mortgage and processes are no different. It is very, very important, especially with some of these people who are sending you something without a gift card. They're not sending you that compensation sometimes. They're just doing it because you're doing a good job. One of the best things that you could do is show appreciation. So getting in there every week and finding creative ways to do so is really, really vital. Your B sources are going to be less frequent than that, but you're trying to get them to A's. So maybe they don't send you contact info. And so the whole process is you're trying to get in front of them to be able to earn the opportunity to be able to have a conversation about how, hey, we could do a better job for you if you send contact information instead of us just sending you a quote.
Mhm.
Your C's, I think that's just a drip list situation. You may get them on the phone, check in with them every, quarter, see how they're doing, hit them up on social so you can, obviously connect on that way. But you're waiting for things to maybe change a little bit, and you're checking in with them every quarter to just make sure that there's not an opportunity for you to add some value. We do what's called a Monday morning email. Every single producer in the entire office does a Monday morning email to their referral sources that they work with. And innately, it goes like this. Hey, this is Brett. I had an amazing weekend. Took the kids tubing this week on the lake. It was incredible. Hope you guys are doing great. It's just something personal, something rapport driven. And then I'm giving value. Hey, I didn't know if you know this, but there is a tropical depression off the coast. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's
Mhm.
brewing. Nothing's happening right now. But if we get into a binding memorandum, which is projected to be next Thursday, you would see the fact that your buyers won't be able to close insurance. It would be very important if you have anybody on the fence that you start this process now so you don't get into a situation where you delay closing. Boom. I was top of mind, which is the most important thing. They see me. They know that they're important.
Mhm.
Second, I'm a real person, like I'm not just, the insurance
Mhm.
agent. I'm using humor, I'm using my personality, and then lastly, I'm delivering value, which means they're going to want to open my emails because I'm giving them things that are going to help them be better at their craft. That's something that I think everybody can do right away. And you can use an unlimited amount of technology to be able to leverage that and use the best use of your time. But it's a great way to maintain the contact at scale. And I'm doing that for A sources, B sources, and C sources,
Mhm.
right? So I may not see the C sources, I may see a lot of the A sources, but as far as the email campaign is concerned and that drip list, everybody's getting that type of contact.
That's beautiful. Man, I've always said my A source is a three-way text. If you get a lender to a three-way text with their client, man, saying, "Hey, John Doe is buying a house, closing on
Great.
in 30 days. I told him about you. He's looking forward for a call today." That's
Yeah.
A, man. Or an email that you got tagged into with the client that says, "Hey, I introduced him. I told him about your agency." Man, that's that closing percentage on that one is
Yep.
the highest you'll ever get.
And I think it's important that you have to train your partners on how to refer you. You can't just rely on them to send you the business however they want to send you the business. Now, that is a caveat. You are not going to change their process right away. A lot of agents come in there and say, "Well, you told me to get the contact info," and they don't send me contact info. You want me to send it through a landing page, and they want to send it through email. Like, look, to get the business and get the opportunity, you have to earn the right to be able to have these conversations. You haven't earned the right yet unless you've been a good partner. So, however they want to refer the business, that's how you're going to get the business. But
Mhm.
over time, there are some sales strategies and some conversations that you can have to open up the door to potentially do it a different way that will
Mhm.
get them a better outcome and inevitably you a better outcome and more importantly the client a better outcome. But you can't just go from A to Z. Like that's an earned process. But to think that everybody's just going to refer you the right way, that's not going to happen. They're going to have to be trained on how to do that.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a way to talk to realtors and mortgage officers, man. If you're like seriously, those guys are a different breed, man. Those guys are just different. They're wired differently. They're just their attention span is literally like 30 seconds. Like you really can't get anything around them. So there's just a way you got to talk to those realtors, man. And sometimes you kind of have to be a little bit of a jerk because a lot of those guys, almost at their level, because a lot of those guys are just going 100 miles an hour. They really don't. The thing is, man, a lot of
Yeah,
realtors specifically, they
they're drivers.
really don't care about insurance.
Yeah, they're
They're
drivers,
like,
and
until you
they
teach
have
them.
an agenda. They're trying to get what they need. They got 30 seconds. They got on the phone to get something done. They're going to talk, and the challenge with that is sometimes you got to know how to handle a driver, especially when that's not your personality type. It's going to take a lot of conditioning and getting used to. Otherwise, you'll just get run over. And what ends up happening is your capacity gets eroded because you're doing stuff and you're working on things that are never going to show fruit because you want to be a good partner. And there's a balance between being a good partner and being productive. And
Yeah.
usually over the long term, being productive makes you a better partner. But being able to articulate that takes some skill, some experience. So I think you're 100% right. I see that all the time. You just get completely run over, and you're not really measuring where your best use of your time is, because you're kind of what does it say, that the tail's wagging the dog, is
Yeah.
that the term? So
Yeah. So you just kind of have to get them really quick, man, and get them what they need real quick and kind of move on. And those are the best ones. The best real estate agents are on the go all the time, doing stuff, 100 things. So if you want to work with the best, man, you kind of have to learn their language.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it,
The last thing I'd leave you with, Cyrus, is just one of the tips I see. There's a big hot button right now in our office is like, we stop having 3 calls when you can have one with a
mm,
buyer, right? Like, if your time is your most precious asset as a
mm,
producer, right? Like, I want to spend the majority of my time in marketing, and I want to spend the second in on the phone with the client. But I don't want to spend my time following up an email. I don't want to spend my time checking in with you to make sure that the proposal and you want to take attention. Like, you have to learn how to close, and a lot of the times the opportunity to learn how to close is just asking open-ended questions, right? Asking the client what they're looking to do. So for example, like, we just did a class that is called the meta model. It's a linguistic language programming, type of communication. So basically says that during conversations, we're assuming different things, and we're projecting our bias upon the situation when we're missing facts and we're missing information. A lot of times we assume that price is going to be the most expensive. We assume that they need to get the proposal and talk it over with their spouse. We assume that closing's not for 30 days, so they don't want to handle it right now. You're assuming certain things, but that's not necessarily the case. So how about just asking a question to the buyer when you're on the phone? You've gone through everything. You say, great, how's everything? Does this answer a lot of your questions? Yes, it does. You've been great. This is amazing. Great. Okay, Brett. Well, while I got you on the phone, I've noticed that, sometimes I assume things and I don't want to. Is there anything that you need that we're missing that, would keep you from making the decision today? Hey, what else would we need to cover in order for you to feel good about making a choice? Hey, what's your timeline
mm,
on getting this done? How big of a priority is this to you right now? These are open-ended questions
mm, mm,
that are going to get the client to give us the answer. Now, if somebody's not ready to go, I'm not going to push them at all. But if I have 100 people I'm talking to, and 20 of them are ready to go right now, and I didn't ask the question, those are 20 people that I have to follow up with. And then the email game begins. And then the realtor's following up with me. And the referral source is saying, why don't we have this deal done yet? And
mm,
all of this communication is everywhere. And young producers are overwhelmed. They don't have enough time, and they
mm,
don't know how to do more volume because they're like, I don't have any more time in the day. Because you're thinking linearly. You're thinking, I need more time to be able to get the same outcomes I'm getting now. And the reality is, you don't need more time. You got to
mm,
get better. So instead of having 3 phone calls, figure out how to have 1 phone call. And what we have found is asking open-ended questions to fill in the gaps of the information that you don't have is vital to being able to move the needle forward on this. Hey,
mm,
when you make this decision, what are the biggest components that are going to go into you making your choice?
mm, mm,
That's an important question, because most people just assume how they would buy or how they would make their choice, and you're getting the prospect to make an acknowledgement that they have to make a decision based on something.
mm,
And so it just gives you it equips you to be able to speak the language. It equips you to be able to serve them, right? Like, I'm not going to put a steak in front of a vegetarian, but if I
mm,
don't ask if they like meat or if they're a vegetarian, I don't know the difference. And so many of us, we just pump it out, throw it over,
mm,
pump it out, and we throw it over. And so asking these questions to be able to fill in the gap of the information that we don't have is the delta between somebody writing 150,000 a month or somebody writing $45,000 a month, and they don't even know how they don't have enough time in the day.
mm.
Does that make sense?
100%. I think I told you a little bit about automation or technology, because before, our agents were spending literally an hour asking them for their VIN numbers, their driver's license numbers, stuff that I'm like, man, like, honestly. And then now you have to hang up, and now you have to call them back. They didn't answer. You
So
didn't set
true.
up an appointment. Now, like, exactly what you said, man, is so to be able to use there's different carriers that pull VIN numbers, driver's license. I tell our guys exactly what you said. Guys, if somebody calls you and they're on the phone, you have the highest percentage of those people closing on the deal. Like, they probably don't even want to hang up and then call somebody else or call you again to pull the trigger. If things make sense, you got them on the line, you got 20 minutes with them, pull the information from wherever you can and then get to the bottom of it, man. Like,
I preach this daily and daily and daily. And it has gotten a little difficult with the tough market. I would say it is not
Sure.
as easy as it was maybe a year ago. But man, the producers that are elite, that are writing what you said, 150 a month, man, they have the highest one call closings
Yes.
or the same day closings than any other producer. And that's almost guaranteed.
100%. We just had a producer wrote, he wrote, it was like 25K and he wrote it in like 5 minutes. And so it was because we have in our process, we have what's called risk assessment.
Mm.
And you're not asking what the risk tolerance of this. This was a high net worth individual. The only reason they were putting insurance on this property is because they were collateralizing it for the loan. He did not want to pay the amount of money that was going to be. So all these agents were sending him all this stuff. And so he simply asked the question. The producer said, "What is the reason that you're getting this policy?" He said, "Man, honestly, I haven't had insurance on this in 10 years. This is why they're doing this." He goes, "Okay, so it's fair to say that you want to self-insure this." He goes, "Yes." He goes, "I wouldn't be getting this if I didn't need to. I can pay for it 10 times over in cash." He goes,
Yeah.
"Okay, great. Well, then the easiest option is this. It's stripped down, but it's going to get you to closing. I just want to make sure your risk tolerance is okay with that." He goes, "No, that's what I've been wanting." The guy was trying to get off the phone. And he goes, "Okay, well, is there any reason you don't want to take it right now?" He's like, "No, I can give you a credit card right now." Boom. It's like 25K. And so the difference is he's not going, "Oh, well, let me send you this and let me give you this proposal and let me shoot you an email and let me know if he's got commission breath and he's all excited because of this big deal." It's because he's experienced. He's got 5 other calls that he's got to get on as a producer. And he's just getting down to the gritty of like, what's your risk assessment? What's your risk tolerance? Like if your risk tolerance is high, this one doesn't have to go through underwriting. This one's easy. If your risk tolerance is low and you want all the bells and whistles, well, this one's got to go through underwriting. So it's going to take 3 days. And he was like, "No, done. I don't want to mess with it. Here's my credit card." And so the point is, if we just ask better questions, we get better answers. And so if anybody that's listening to this, if your capacity is being eroded, you just don't have enough time in the day, and you say, "How am I going to get to the next level?" It is by far more than likely. I agree with you. Technology is huge, but I think more by far, especially in this age when there's so much tech, it is so much more effective to focus on how to get better, how to take a 20-minute conversation and make it 5, how to take 3 calls and make it into 1. And this goes for realtors. This goes for any referral partner. This goes for your clients. It goes a long, long way. And that art of communication is something that all of us at every level can get better at if you stay a student at it.
So I got to ask you a quick question, man. I think we've gone a little bit over, so but I'm okay with this because this is really good. So I've got a producer that can write in personal lines, all personal lines, no commercial, and you do as well. 60K a week. I've got a producer that could do that, and she's done that 2 weeks in a row, last 2 weeks.
That is savage.
Every other producer that are doing like 15, our average is 15, 12 to 20, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
What differentiates, Brett, that producer, and I'm sure you have this at your office, and then those other producers? Is that what you said earlier?
God, that's so good, man. Number one, those are savage numbers. I'm allergic to small numbers, and I love that. So that's beautiful.
Wow.
I love that.
Geico. She was 11 years at Geico. We got her 3 years ago. I don't know, man. I would love to.
That's one of the best in the country. That's legit. That is straight up absolutely wailing out right there. I mean, that's a good question. For me, it comes down to your ability to get somebody to a decision at a faster route, right? Like my ability, because I think the most finite important thing from a producer is just time. There's only so much time. Now you can add in resources, you can have processors, you can have an assistant, you can have all these things. But if we're talking about just body to body, person to person, headset to headset, what makes the difference? To me, it's my ability to get somebody to a decision faster. And some people think that that's like, oh, well, you push them to get it. No. I just asked better questions and they arrived at where they needed to. A confused mind does nothing. A confused mind does absolutely nothing. And we confuse clients so much. We educate clients. The ones that aren't necessarily great at their craft, They learn about indemnification and then they want to talk about the definition of indemnification for 10 minutes on the phone. You are a doctor. You are specialized. You are high level. You do not need to tell them how the human body works. You need to prescribe them the prescription. You need to let them know what the solution is. People are on the phone with you because they have a problem. You have the solution. Focus on the solution and what you can do to help resolve it instead of talking about the process of how we're going to get there. People have lives. They don't want to become insurance experts, but we spend so much of our time trying to convince people that we know what we're talking about. The most successful people that I know in this industry spend almost no time trying to convince somebody of how smart they are in talking insurance language, and they spend majority, if not all of their time asking questions to make sure that they're serving and finding what the problem is that they can solve.
Dude, so good, man. So good. At the end of the day, man, if you don't think insurance is the number one reason people don't go with you is price, you're mistaken, man. Because at the end of the day, price is literally is where it's going to, especially personal lines. You know, I mean, but to be able to give them, and people have asked me, one of our producers, like, hey, what do you think the difference is between her and everybody else? I said, dude, she's really good with her time. And she asks the client, hey, I got this quote done. It's going to be this much. Do you want to go with this one or this one? She never asks. She doesn't say like, oh, I've got 3 options. You should do this one or this. She's like, she just says, this is the best option. I'm a professional. You're going to go with this. And if you don't, it's okay. I've got another one waiting, man. I got to go. What do I do?
Belief. She's transferring belief, right? Like she's so certain and she's so experienced and she feels so confident that she's going to lead them the right way. The person at the end of the phone call is going, oh, well, they solved my problem. My problem is I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You do. So just help me make a decision, right? 100%. So good. And, you know, and somebody that's new might not have that immediately, but that's a skill. If you keep building on it, you'll get really good at it. And that's a clinic right there, man. I love that.
Yeah. So before we end this, man, I want to ask you about just you personally, man, because I feel like we might be in the same. I'm one of those guys, man, that every aspect of my life, whether it's being a dad, whether it's being a husband, better being an entrepreneur and being a leader and all that stuff, I always am reaching and trying to become better at every one of those things, right? Like I don't want to be known as the best insurance agent. If my life ends and I'm the best insurance agent, man, I've had a terrible life, to be honest with you. A better dad, the best dad, maybe good husband, things like that. So so I'm curious on your thought, like, how are you trying to become exceptional at everything? What are some things you're doing on a daily basis with you, yourself, or your team to become better on a daily basis in everything you do?
Man, that's a good question. I feel the same way. I mean, there's a saying, I'm sure most people have heard it, but how you do anything is how you do everything. I mean, I don't think that's intuitive. I think that's learned over a long period of time. And I believe it because these certain little disciplines in different area become big impact makers in other areas. And when I'm lacking in some other specific areas because I don't think it matters, it bleeds over into the other areas of my life. So, and for me, that's just been a North Star of like, you know, execution is worship. Like that's for me is my way of getting close to my creator, you know, and I think we're all divinely gifted with inherent ability. And, you know, whether we choose to wake that up, that is the gift of this life. And there's so much to be gained, but there's such a finite amount of time. So for me, a North Star of becoming more is really driven by urgency. You know, like you talk about getting to the end of your life. I mean, like I feel like I've blinked and this career is gone, you know, and I just, the level of urgency that I have to see what I could do, you know, how far can I push it? You know, what could I become has become just like an obsession for me. And you know, there's good and bad things about that, but the good news is for that, it's just become ingrained into my daily disciplines. It's become ingrained into my daily. So one of the things that I do is I read 10 pages of a good book a day without fail. And that's something that we teach our whole team to do. And it doesn't have to be insurance related. It doesn't have to be sales related. It's just something that I want to become better at. A good book that's going to give me good, rich information to help me improve some area of my life. And so that simple little thing, you know, compounded over 20 years, 30 years, has really been the catalyst for going from unmotivated to motivated, going from uneducated to educated, going from not being able to communicate to being able to communicate. Goes from not being a great salesperson to being an elite salesperson. Goes from my body from a fitness perspective wasn't developed at all to now I feel like I'm a pretty fit dude. Like you could just take so many areas of life, and I think it all comes back to that same core quest, but that same discipline of like, I'm not going to try to do it all today. I'm just going to have this. I'm just going to keep chopping the tree, keep chopping the tree, keep chopping the tree. And most people can't stick at it long enough. And I know that if I just stick at it long enough, I'll be able to beat most people, because that is the most challenging part of anything, is continued duration of time, not the intensity of the act. So, I mean, there's some other things that I do, man, but it's like, whatever you do, like your morning ritual and all that stuff, whatever, that's each to each person. I think whatever, that's a lot of that is, it is what it is. But I think the 10 pages of a good book for me has been the biggest differentiator between my younger self and myself today.
That's cool, man. I actually just launched my book on a couple of days ago. I wrote a book called Triumph After Trauma. I'm a refugee from Afghanistan. I moved here in 2002, no English, nothing. And so it's a story of resilience, and our house got bombed early on in Afghanistan. It's just the whole story is about that. So I'm gonna write one, sign one, send it to you for being on my podcast to appreciate.
That's amazing. Thank you, man. That is incredible. I can't wait to read that. What an impactful teaser right there. Holy smokes.
And so Triumph After Trauma, for listeners, man, if you want to get it on Amazon, anywhere you want to go, it's on Audible if you want to listen to it. I would love the feedback on it. Just came a couple of days ago. So I'm a junkie like you. I'm more of a podcast guy, even though our team, we have to read one book a month. We've been doing that for 4 years. Everybody reads the same book. We share notes. So that's kind of become a part of our culture at our office. But so I'm a podcast junkie when it comes to this. So 2 more questions. You're out of here, my man. What's your definition of greatness?
Consistency.
Love that.
God, it's so hard to be consistent. It's like the days you wake up, and you've got that 6 a.m. workout, you drank the night before, and I feel terrible, right? I've had a glass of wine, this great day, and it's so easy to say, well, I did it the day before, I'm fine, but like that grit that allows you to get up and do it anyway. Or those calls that you don't want to make when, you've got sales right in front of you and you feel good about the bind button that you hit and you're like, oh, I did great today. And it's like, no, I'm not in the dirt. I got to get in the dirt. Like to me, the consistency and over like a long period of time, the longevity to me is what makes greatness. If we look at all the athletes, and I'm an athlete guy, like they're not defined by their highest peaks. They're usually not usually, they are defined by their duration of success.
That's massive. That is massive. And then my next one for you is, this is usually how we end the podcast. So if there was one thing personal, one thing professional, on the personal level, what would be one thing that you do on a daily basis that if you do it, when you put your head on the pillow at night, you're like, man, I won that day. That was a good day. If there was one thing on the personal side, one thing on the professional side.
A workout.
Whew.
A hard workout. I think the way that you get to the mind is through the body. And I didn't understand this early on. Some people think that the way to get, go to the mind to get to the body. And it doesn't work that way. There's something physiological about your physical body being under duress. In acute stress and pushing past those limits, expanding what's possible, breaking it down, and then rebuilding it back. That physiological process translates to everything in your life. So if I get that workout in and I do what I'm supposed to as far as taking care of my temple, 100%, no matter what could happen, the world could be crumbling. When my head hits the pillow, the Bible says the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. Right? It's the exhaustion of the physical self that breeds satisfaction to the soul. And so for me, that is absolutely number one. And man, I don't have one professionally. To me, that's my anchor. To me, that's what it controls the emotions when my kids are going bazonkers. That's the one that regulates, controls when I have a team member that's having challenges. That's the one that regulates when I lose a big account. That's one that regulates when I have an argument or a disagreement with somebody and I get triggered and I want to get angry. that one to me is that one regulates my whole life personally and professionally. And it's kind of tough for me to say that because I believe in work life integration. I don't know if I have a professional and a personal. For me,
Mhm.
it's everything. I'm just me, man. I just play full out. And so, but to answer your question, man, if I get that one in, I
You're
feel
good.
good. If I don't get that one in, there's a lot left to be desired.
That's cool, man. Brett, and there's this. We got to do a couple of other episodes, man. 'Cause I feel like we could talk forever, man. There was so much wisdom, man.
Thank you,
We
dude.
certainly
Appreciate that.
appreciate your time. Anything else you want to share before we call this?
No, I can't wait to read the book, man. I'm tickled to death that you'd have me on here. It's so good to get a chance to kick it with you. And I mean, if anybody is listening to this, and my favorite thing to do is talk to producers and help. And I've got no coaching. I got nothing to sell you. It's none of that, bait and switch stuff. I just genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I was one of those guys that,
Yeah.
took a long time to make it work. And I've been to the bottom where you're scraping it, and to be able to have those nuggets and the people that support you was everything. I didn't necessarily have that early in my career, and one of my life quests is to be in somebody's testimonial that I helped them along the way, because somebody did that for me and they're really special. So if there's anybody that you want to hit me up on socials, I'm very active on Instagram, on LinkedIn. The ability to be able to kick it and help is one of the true treasures of life. Be happy to do it.
Awesome, man. All right, man. Keep being exceptional, man. Have a good day.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.